So here we are in this last video of this subsection. We're going to look at Booleans and conditionals to build upon our previous understanding of the Python variables and assignments and functions. And here you can see the tutorial here. You can click on it. It'll bring you to a page that looks like this, where you can copy and edit into your own Kaggle account. I've done that here for myself. And you can see that the kernel is running. I can go ahead and start executing these codes. So to begin with, Booleans is a concept that you'll find in every programming language, which is a way to represent true and false. It's like ints, integers, or floats, what we learned before. Booleans basically store either true or false and can be created either by defining it here as true, or a Boolean can be created through what's called a conditional or comparison, which we'll talk about here in a second. So Booleans are super important for creating statements that we looked in the first video about the if statement, where we tested something. If it's true, then something should happen. Now we're going to be creating true or false through comparison operators. So using equal to, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than, equal to, not equal to. These are all the syntax you can see here in this table for understanding how to compare different variables. Equals is in Python syntax, of course, is a way to assign a value to a variable. Therefore, the comparison operator for equal to needs to be different. And in this case, it's two equal signs, which you can see here. All the others, less than, equal to, all of these you can see in these examples. Let's look at these in action. We're going to create a function, can run for president, with age as the input. And you're going to return if that age is greater than or equal to 35. Then if that age sent in is greater than that, you're going to send back true. And if it's less than that, you're going to send back false. So let's test that out here. You can see, can a 19-year-old run for president? False. Can a 45-year-old run for president? True. And this is according to the US Constitution. And then here it says comparisons frequently work like you hope. So it's able to compare. In this case, you have a float compared to an integer, and that's going to work. True. So Python is able to abstract away the fact that these are different types and give you the right answer. However, if you send it a string, it's not able to compare a string to an integer. So 3 in single quotations makes it a string data type, and the number 3 here is an integer. So this is be considered false. In this next function, you can see here that we created a function called isOdd. It's taking arguments, and it is returning whether they're odd or even using the remainder operator in Python. When we run this, we can see that is 100 odd false, is -1 odd true. So it's actually using comparison operators in a different way. So in this next subsection, you can see that we're creating situations where comparisons are being added to each other. So you can say and, or not. You can add those, and you can kind of chain together conditional statements so that if they're all true, then everything is true. If one or the other is true, then it makes it true. Here's an example of is natural born citizen and age greater than 35. So you're passing it 2 arguments. And in this case, it's passing an age and then whether the person's natural born citizen or not. If we run this function, you'll notice that 19 and a natural born citizen makes not able to run. 55 and not a citizen is also not able to run, but 55 and a citizen is able to run. So this and operator here is making sure that both conditional statements are true in order for the overall line of code to be true, essentially. So throughout the rest of this section, there are a few more brain teasers. It's asking you, can you guess the value of this expression? It's really explaining a lot of the details in chaining different conditionals together using or, and, or not. So it can get quite complex. So go ahead and read into that to learn more about that. And then finally, one of the most important parts of this lesson is using comparison operators in conditional statements. If, else if, and else. So using Python, you're going to use these statements numerous amounts of times to test whether something is true or false. And if it is, then do something else, then execute a different line of code. Here you can see that there's a chain of conditionals. Once again, you notice that there is the the nesting feature of the syntax of Python, where you have 4 spaces, which show how these statements are nested. If you don't have those 4 spaces at each of those lines, Python doesn't know that if it's a nested line of code, and it will throw an error. But here we can run this code. We created this function called inspect. We're sending it 0 to understand if it's 0, positive, negative, or unlike anything you've ever seen. Inspect is giving back for 0. It's saying that it is 0, and -15 is saying it's negative. There's another example here, which is going into more detail of other situations where only printing when X is positive. And then, of course, Boolean conversion, converting Booleans from the Boolean type into floats or ints or things like that is possible to do as well. So once again, at the end of this lesson, please try the hands-on coding programs for this lesson, and you will be exposed to different ways to test the knowledge of these concepts.